The idea of somebody being like, I read minds. I invade people's minds in the interest of the greater good.
Welcome back to our next deep dive into the new feats and backgrounds for Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen, which is out in early access right now if you got that digital physical bundle, and coming for everyone on December 6th. I've brought back Saige Ryan to talk about magic, to talk about moons, to pick out some options for playing a Mage of High Sorcery. Welcome back!
Thank you. I am very excited. This has been so much fun. I've gotten to talk about magic so much lately.
And even more of it is coming your way. We are going to practice our spell schools, we're going to practice our choices, and we get to create some really fun stuff. So I am going to ask your picks for what you might want to make with some of these options. But first, let's talk about those options. In Dragonlance, you can play as an aspiring Mage of High Sorcery, also known in the world of Krynn as the Wizards of High Sorcery. The Mages of High Sorcery are an ancient order who actually have three quite different branches, each devoted to a different god who is associated with one of the three moons of Krynn. So the moon, the color of the robes, and the god are all linked, and you serve whatever their different visions of the uses of power are as part of the Order of Mages of High Sorcery. And if you choose this option, you get to take the background for mages, immediately get that initiate feat as part of those bonus feats we talked about in our earlier deep dive, and then at 4th level you'll get to start walking down the specific path you're looking for. The mages are, like I said, an order that goes back very far. There were once 5 towers of high sorcery. Only one inhabited tower remains, which is the headquarters for the Conclave, and these 3 branches of the mages. But before you get to that part, you may take the background of a Mage of High Sorcery if you're playing in a Dragonlance campaign. This means that your talent for magic came to the attention of the Mages of High Sorcery, an organization of spellcasters that studies magic and prevents its misuse. For your background as a Mage of High Sorcery, yes, it's going to be a lot of wizards, as their alternate name implies, but you'll also find sorcerers, warlocks, and other spellcasters among their ranks. They're a little bit different from folks who draw their powers from divine sources, and that is, of course, part of the delicious story that informs this game. But along with delicious story, we get some fabulous crunch. So you're going to get the Initiate of High Sorcery feat at 1st level with this background. This means you're going to choose a moon to influence your magic, either the Black Moon, Nuitari, the Red Moon, Lunatari, or the White Moon, Solitari, who serve evil, neutral, and good goals respectively. You're gonna get a cantrip of your choice from the wizard spell list and pick out some 1st level spells associated with the moon you've chosen, which you're gonna get a little bit of extra access to without a spell slot. All right, Saige. So the choice actually is before us now. Do you want to let us know now, or do you want to save it for our build?
I will let you know what I'm leaning towards. I think that Lunatari is very interesting to me.
The neutral god, the trickster. She is a important figure from these ancient pantheons of Dragonlance, which, if you've been following some of the lore, or if you're new to Dragonlance, the gods are much less active than they once were for some very interesting reasons. But you may still serve her and her goal of balance as a Mage of the Red Robes. My favorite last thing about choosing the Mage of High Sorcery background is that, like the Knights of Solemnia, it gives you a custom trinkets table. So my fave trinket from this one was a lens through which you can see Krynn's invisible Black Moon.
So cool!
The one that's only visible because it blocks out the stars. It's just delicious. So at 4th level, you're picking up the next level of your feats. You're already an initiate. You've already chosen the moon that you're aiming at, the god that you're going to serve, the ideals that you are going to uphold as a mage, and it's time to become an adept. So if you are an Adept of the White Robes, at 4th level, you pick up this feat. You chose the Moon Solinari to influence your magic, and your oath to use magic to make the world a better place has been recognized by the Order of the White Robes. So you are going to get something called a Protective Ward, which is a bit of an ability to shield, to reduce some damage for the folks around you. You're also going to get to choose a 2nd level spell that should be from Abjuration or Divination. One of those schools. You can use that one without a spell slot, and you must finish a long rest before you can do that again. You can also use it with any of your existing spell slots. Adept of the White Robes, Saige, you're using your magic for good. You've got a Protective Ward. What's a 2nd level Abjuration or Divination spell that you might want to snag for this one?
If you're trying to do good, I'm looking at my 2nd levels here. I mean, so I love a spicy good. And maybe I've just been watching too much Andor, but I love a spicy good of like, what is good? Good is subjective, and what will you do to achieve what is considered good to your belief system? So something in the area of like a detect thoughts on the divination side is very interesting. And that idea of like, oh no, I'm thought policing to do good. I'm protecting people. You can't be trusted with that. I think that's like a weird, it's a terrible choice, but a fun choice to me. And like borrowed knowledge to me was the other one that I was like, that would obviously be helpful. Borrowed knowledge is always like a great boost, but the idea of somebody being like, I read minds, I invade people's minds in the interest of the greater good.
I love that. The White Robes might have a little bit of dirt on them, the way that we're playing this one, but you know, for the best reasons. So let's say we are walking the next path. We are choosing an Adept of the Red Robes. This means you chose the Moon Lunitari to influence your magic, and you are dedicated to maintaining the balance between all things, which means you are going to get something called Magical Balance. This means an attack roll or ability check that you get a 9 or lower, you can balance fate and treat as a 10. Now, we have seen some abilities like this out there. Reliable Talent is one that's sort of like, hey, there's only so badly you're gonna do here, but this is pretty striking. You can do this a few times before you need to refresh those uses. Saige, what do we think of Magical Balance? And with your Insightful Magic, your 2nd level spell for this one's gonna be Illusion or Transmutation. Anything you've got your eye on?
I think that the just general boost there of like, no, but it was at least a 10, and the kind of inability, however many times you're able to activate it, to fail in that scenario, because like the scales are tipped for me. Like even is what it means for the scales to be tipped in my favor is very cool, and I love that a lot. In things like this, I think that like mirror image would be a fun thing to take. I have like a build in mind specifically for this like red robe mage that we'll get to in a little bit. But because of that, I'm gonna say mirror image. The illusory duplicates. We are the balance, baby.
Finally, there is a 3rd branch for the Mages of High Sorcery. These mages are devoted to Nuitari, the Black Moon of Kryn, and they serve first their personal ambition, 2nd the good of their order, and 3rd the conclave as a whole. Maybe like a distant 3rd, that's a personal choice. But with this, you are going to get Life Channel with this 4th level feat, and that means that when a creature you can see fails a saving throw, you can make it just a little bit worse. You can increase that damage with some of your hit dice. And with Ambitious Magic, you're also going to get a 2nd level spell from the schools of Enchantment or Necromancy. So, Saige, if we're rolling up a Black Robe Mage, what are we going for?
There's so many good options. I love necromancy magic. I'm just always a huge fan. Almost every character I build that can take them will take some necromancy magic. So for this one, I think there's a couple of different ways that you can go, but it is self-serving. It is about your ambition. So I'm going to say Ray of Enfeeblement. A black beam of enervating energy springs from your fingers towards a creature within range. Make a ranged spell attack against the target. On a hit, the target deals only half damage with weapon attacks that use strength until the spell ends. Now, this is one of those that you have to be pretty clever to use. It's not something that's going to apply in every situation. But in the self-serving nature of it, I don't picture this character particularly about the fight. Like, this is a wizard in a lot of scenarios, right? So this is about, like, you don't hit me, you don't do that. This is about preventing damage and mitigating damage, as opposed to being the person in service of sending the damage.
I love that. And it's a great, we think about, evil is like, I'm crushing you into dust, but sometimes it's just standing here with a smirk on your face as they fail to stop you. So that is a very fun option to take. But between all of these, between the various robes that you might don, Saige, it sounds like we know what we want to do. So let's hop into the builder and see what we can make.
I'm very excited.
We are creating a character in the world of Dragonlance, which means we are going to have access to this feat structure. In our case, we already know what some of those bonus feats are going to be because we are going to choose the background when we get there of Mage of High Sorcery. But did you have a lineage in mind for this character?
Okay, because we already know that we're leaning towards those red robes, I'm thinking a changeling.
A changeling for our balancing act can be a lot of fun. What class?
We're going for trickstery stuff. I think that changeling initially, that frees up a lot of the spells that we're going to choose to not have to take things like your disguise self or something like that. Like, it's built in.
That will give us some very fun options that should combo well. What class are we going?
So obviously we know wizard is like easy and like it's there and it makes sense and it's a clean build, but I'm gonna say warlock.
Ooh.
There's something very warlocky about this background to me, of this, like, you have drawn the attention of these elders of magic, and what's more warlocky than that, than being like, notice me, senpai, to the elder gods of magic.
And what patron would you choose, or which flavor are we going for here?
Now this is tough. I'm going to say a classic, and I'm going to say the Great Old One. I want to not get too complicated with the sources of this warlock's magic so that we could focus on their, like, or whether it's like reflavoring what your patron actually is, because I don't know about most of you, but like, I never play an out-of-the-book patron. I'm like, let me go through every god that's ever existed, every high point of magic. I have a warlock who has a sunflower for a patron, just a great sunflower in the Feywilds, and was like, you're my dad now. So I think there's so much fun to be had with warlocks and like reskinning the backgrounds of, or the other worldly patrons of. So Great Old One's my choice.
Now, would you go through, because there's a great section on the Pantheons of Krynn, you could be someone who fell through a portal from another world, and that was the deity that you served, or that was associated with your power originally, or you could work with your DM to figure out a way that this meshes with your devotion to Lunatari. Mm-hmm. I feel like those would both be very fun options for bringing this one to life.
I love the idea of having like fallen through a portal and like finding a new source of your magic, and being like, I have this, what else have you got? And finding other ways to get access to it. I think the warlocks can be somebody that's in this of like, I actively seek out this magic, and wherever they land, they'd probably keep looking for more.
That very much tracks, and that is what would lead them to their background. We are going to choose for our background the new option of the Mage of High Sorcery. And with that, we are going to get Initiate of High Sorcery, which we're going to go ahead and add on the sheet, which is going to grant us all the things we talked about before, but include with that a wizard cantrip, and your 2 chosen spells for Lunatari. So let's see. Saige, with your initiate feat, what are we doing? Which 2 Lunatari spells are you gonna put on your character?
Okay, I'm going to say, let's keep this fun, because I'm like, disguise self, we've got covered, right? Like, we don't necessarily need that. There are different functions between, like, you know, polymorphing essentially and disguise self, which is fun. But I'm gonna say Featherfall for sure. And then let's take Color Spray, because it's fun.
Color Spray is a delightful, fun spell. Makes a dazzling display show up, which is going to knock out a bunch of your enemy's ability to properly perceive what's going on, because all they've got is your razzle dazzle. So I love these as a combination, because I like the idea that you are falling through the sky and just leaving that behind as like an aerial battle's going on.
Yes. I have a very clear image of this character in my mind in an almost like witchery sense, in what they've taken on and whatever their new position is. Hey, they've landed in this world and they have to essentially start over, and they know that they are adept at magic, and the ability to be like, okay, well, my responsibility is balance. And you can kind of like do the thing where you're like, hey, flash of all of these colors, distract everybody, cause a little bit of damage in the meantime. Please don't see this thing that I have to take care of. Because I am maintaining the balance.
Oh, I love that. And even when you're doing the responsible thing, you can hide that from the world, where you're like, nobody needs to know that I'm taking care of this kind of good thing. Just like
Right.
they don't need to know if I pocketed that other thing over there, you know?
Neutral.
Anything else that you would want to make sure we have, or that you're looking forward to doing with this character that we've hinted at, this Mage of the Red Robes we're building?
I think there are very fun opportunities for role play and growth. I am somebody who is usually anti-neutral. I'm never neutral anything, and I think it's a fun challenge to take on what neutral means to you with this background. I think there's an opportunity to explore what being neutral is, and all of those instincts that you're gonna have in game to be like, ooh, I think this would be the right thing to do, or like, this is a fun, very bad thing to do, but to be like, does this follow my expectation of maintaining order, and how do I make my decisions in line with like a truly neutral view of the world? Sacrifices will have to be made. You'll have incredibly harrowing experiences most likely that are going to be challenging for you as a player who probably isn't neutral as a person, and you're going to have feelings about all of these things that you're going to have to go, okay, but this is the choice because this is the thing that would maintain the balance.
Dragonlance is finally coming to us in the 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons, and I can't wait to hear what everyone else is making. What are you making? Please put it in the comments. And Saige, where can people find you?
You can find me everywhere on the internet at NotSage. I am a streamer on my channel, as well as the channel Pixel Circus, which I created with a bunch of my best friends, where we do a ton of tabletop and D&D content you can check out at twitch.tv/pixelcircus.
And if you'd like to follow up a little bit and see what else Saige might do with this setting, you may want to stay tuned. Dive in if you've got early access. Start playing with these right now, and we will see you next time on D&D Beyond.